Social engineering, in the context of information security, is understood to mean the art of manipulating people into performing actions, or divulging confidential information. This is a type of confidence trick for the purpose of information gathering, fraud, or gaining computer system access. It differs from traditional cons, in that often the attack is a mere step in a more complex fraud scheme. Social engineering as an act of psychological manipulation had previously been associated with the social sciences, but its usage has caught on among computer and information security professionals. Techniques and terms. All social engineering techniques are based on specific attributes of human decision-making known as cognitive biases. These biases, sometimes called bugs in the human hardware, are exploited in various combinations to create attack techniques, some of which are listed here. Pretexting. Pretexting, adjective pretextual, also known in the UK as blagging or bohoing, is the act of creating and using an invented scenario, the pretext, to engage a targeted victim in a manner that increases the chance the victim will divulge information, or perform actions, that would be unlikely in ordinary circumstances. An elaborate lie, it most often involves some prior research or setup and the use of this information for impersonation, for instance, date of birth, social security number, last bill amount, to establish legitimacy in the mind of the target. This technique can be used to fool a business into disclosing customer information as well as by private investigators to obtain telephone records, utility records, banking records and other information directly from company service representatives. The information can then be used to establish even greater legitimacy under tougher questioning with a manager, for instance, to make account changes, get specific balances, etc. Pretexting can also be used to impersonate co-workers, police, bank, tax authorities, clergy, insurance investigators, or any other individual who could have perceived authority or right to know in the mind of the targeted victim. The pretexter must simply prepare answers to questions that might be asked by the victim. In some cases, all that is needed is a voice that sounds authoritative, an earnest tone, and an ability to think on one's feet, to create a pretextual scenario. Diversion theft. Diversion theft, also known as the corner game or round-the-corner game, originated in the East End of London. In summary, diversion theft is a con exercised by professional thieves, normally against a transport or courier company. The objective is to persuade the persons responsible for a legitimate delivery that the consignment is requested elsewhere, hence, round the corner. Phishing. Phishing is a technique of fraudulently obtaining private information. Typically, the phisher sends an email that appears to come from a legitimate business, a bank, or credit card company requesting verification of information and warning of some dire consequence, if it is not provided. The email usually contains a link to a fraudulent web page that seems legitimate with company logos and content and has a form requesting everything from a home address to an ATM card's PIN. For example, 2003 saw the proliferation of a phishing scam in which users received emails supposedly from eBay claiming that the user's account was about to be suspended unless a link provided was clicked to update a credit card, information that the genuine eBay already had. Because it is relatively simple to make a website resemble a legitimate organization's site by mimicking the HTML code, the scam counted on people being tricked into thinking they were being contacted by eBay and subsequently were going to eBay's site to update their account information. By spamming large groups of people, the phisher counted on the email being read by a percentage of people who already had listed credit card numbers with eBay legitimately, who might respond. IVR or phone phishing. Phone phishing, or vishing, uses a rogue interactive voice response (IVR) system to recreate a legitimate-sounding copy of a bank or other institution's IVR system. The victim is prompted, typically via a phishing email, to call into the bank via a, ideally toll-free, number provided in order to verify information. A typical system will reject logins continually, ensuring the victim enters PINs or passwords multiple times, often disclosing several different passwords. More advanced systems transfer the victim to the attacker posing as a customer service agent for further questioning. Baiting. Baiting is like the real-world Trojan horse that uses physical media and relies on the curiosity or greed of the victim. In this attack, the attacker leaves a malware-infected floppy disk, CD-ROM, or USB flash drive in a location sure to be found: bathroom, elevator, sidewalk, parking lot, gives it a legitimate-looking and curiosity-piquing label, and simply waits for the victim to use the device. For example, an attacker might create a disk featuring a corporate logo, readily available from the target's website, and write Executive Salary Summary Q2 2012 on the front. The attacker would then leave the disk on the floor of an elevator, or somewhere in the lobby of the targeted company. An unknowing employee might find it, and subsequently insert the disk into a computer to satisfy their curiosity, or a Good Samaritan might find it, and turn it into the company. In either case, as a consequence of merely inserting the disk into a computer to see the user would unknowingly install malware on it, likely giving an attacker unfettered access to the victim's PC, and, perhaps, the targeted company's internal computer network. Unless computer controls block the infection, PCs set to auto-run inserted media may be compromised as soon as a rogue disk is inserted. Hostile devices, more attractive than simple memory, can also be used. For instance, a lucky winner is sent a free digital audio player that actually compromises any computer it is plugged to. Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo means something for something. An attacker calls random numbers at a company, claiming to be calling back from technical support. Eventually this person will hit someone with a legitimate problem, grateful that someone is calling back to help them. The attacker will help solve the problem, and, in the process, have the user type commands that give the attacker access or launch malware. In a 2003 information security survey, 90% of office workers gave researchers what they claimed was their password in answer to a survey question in exchange for a cheap pen. Similar surveys in later years obtained similar results using chocolates and other cheap lures, although they made no attempt to validate the passwords. Tailgating. An attacker, seeking entry to a restricted area secured by unattended, electronic access control, for instance by RFID card, simply walks in behind a person who has legitimate access. Following common courtesy, the legitimate person will usually hold the door open for the attacker. The legitimate person may fail to ask for identification for any of several reasons, or may accept an assertion that the attacker has forgotten or lost the appropriate identity token. The attacker may also fake the action of presenting an identity token. Other types. Common confidence tricksters or fraudsters also could be considered social engineers in the wider sense, in that they deliberately deceive and manipulate people, exploiting human weaknesses to obtain personal benefit. They may, for example, use social engineering techniques as part of a net fraud. A very recent type of social engineering technique includes spoofing or cracking IDs of people having popular email IDs such as Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, etc. Among the many motivations for deception are phishing credit card account numbers and their passwords, cracking private emails and chat histories, and manipulating them by using common editing techniques before using them to extort money, and creating distrust among individuals. Cracking websites of companies or organizations, and destroying their reputation. Computer virus hoaxes. Countermeasures. Organizations reduce their security risks by establishing frameworks of trust on an employee/personnel level, that is, specify and train personnel when/where/why/how sensitive information should be handled. Identifying which information is sensitive, and evaluating its exposure to social engineering, and breakdowns in security systems, building, computer system, etc. Establishing security protocols, policies, and procedures for handling sensitive information. Training employees in security protocols relevant to their position. For instance, in situations such as tailgating, if a person's identity cannot be verified, then employees must be trained to politely refuse. Performing unannounced, periodic tests of the security framework. Reviewing the above steps regularly. No solutions to information integrity are perfect. Using a waste management service that has dumpsters with locks on them, with keys to them limited only to the waste management company and the cleaning staff. Locating the dumpster either in view of employees such that trying to access it carries a risk of being seen, or caught, or behind a locked gate or fence, where the person must trespass before they can attempt to access the dumpster. Notable social engineers. California police departments investigating red light violations. More than 30 California police departments mail out fake red light camera tickets, also called snitch tickets, in an effort to bluff registered owners into revealing the identity of the person who was driving the vehicle at the time of the alleged violation. Because these tickets have not been filed at court, they carry no legal weight, and, in the U.S., the registered owner has the right to remain silent, and is under no obligation to respond in any manner. In California, a genuine ticket bears the name and address of the local branch of the Superior Court and directs the recipient to contact that court, while fake tickets generated by the police do not. Kevin Mitnick, reformed computer criminal and later security consultant Kevin Mitnick points out that it is much easier to trick someone into giving a password for a system than to spend the effort to crack into the system. Christopher Hanagi, security professional that wrote the first framework. He is also the author of the book. He is the creator of the DEFCON Social Engineer Capture the Flag and the Social Engineer CTF for Kids. Badi brothers. Brothers Rami, Musa, and Shad Badi, all of whom were blind from birth, managed to set up an extensive phone and computer fraud scheme in Israel in the 1990s using social engineering, voice impersonation, and braille display computers. Archangel, the white hat hacker, computer security consultant, and writer for Frack magazine, Archangel, nicknamed the greatest social engineer of all time, has demonstrated social engineering techniques to gain everything from passwords to pizza to automobiles to airline tickets. Steve Stasiukanis, security consultant for Secure Network Technologies, inventor of the USB thumb drive test, where USB sticks contained exploits to test if employees would run them from within their business environments. This attack is now one of the most popular social engineering techniques in existence, and is used to test the human element of security around the world. J.B. Snyder, principal consultant for BankSec Incorporated, and one of the world's top experts in banking cybersecurity, developed and proved in over 50 U.S. bank locations the most efficient social engineering attack in history. This attack vector, primarily utilizing email, allows a social engineer to make unauthenticated, unauthorized, large cash withdrawals from bank branches with an extraordinarily high success rate, over 90%, while enjoying low probabilities of immediate detection or subsequent incarceration. Among his other successful bank social engineering test accomplishments is wire transfer through a combination of emails and telephone pretexting. Mike Ridpath, security consultant for OActive, published author and speaker, emphasizes techniques and tactics for social engineering cold calling. Became notable after his talks, where he would play recorded calls and explain his thought process on what he was doing to get passwords through the phone. Other social engineers include Frank Abagnale, David Bannon, Peter Foster, Mehdi Zalayo, Cosmo the God, and Stephen J. Russell. Law. In common law, pretexting is an invasion of privacy tort of appropriation. Pretexting of telephone records. In December 2006, United States Congress approved a Senate-sponsored bill making the pretexting of telephone records a federal felony with fines of up to $250,000 and 10 years in prison for individuals, or fines of up to $500,000 for companies. It was signed by President George W. Bush on 12 January 2007. Federal legislation. The 1999 GLBA is a U.S. federal law that specifically addresses pretexting of banking records as an illegal act punishable under federal statutes. When a business entity such as a private investigator, SRU insurance investigator, or an adjuster conducts any type of deception, it falls under the authority of the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. This federal agency has the obligation and authority to ensure that consumers are not subjected to any unfair or deceptive business practices. U.S. Federal Trade Commission Act, Section 5 of the FTCA states, in part, whenever the Commission shall have reason to believe that any such person, partnership, or corporation has been or is using any unfair method of competition or unfair or deceptive act, or practice in or affecting commerce, and if it shall appear to the Commission that a proceeding by it in respect thereof would be to the interest of the public, it shall issue, and serve upon such person, partnership, or corporation a complaint stating its charges in that respect. The statute states that when someone obtains any personal non-public information from a financial institution or the consumer, their action is subject to the statute. It relates to the consumer's relationship with the financial institution. For example, a pretexter using false pretenses either to get a consumer's address from the consumer's bank, or to get a consumer to disclose the name of his or her bank, would be covered. The determining principle is that pretexting only occurs when information is obtained through false pretenses. While the sale of cell telephone records has gained significant media attention, and telecommunications records are the focus of the two bills currently before the United States Senate, many other types of private records are being bought and sold in the public market. Alongside many advertisements for cell phone records, wireline records and the records associated with calling cards are advertised. As individuals shift to VoIP telephones, it is safe to assume that those records will be offered for sale as well. Currently, it is legal to sell telephone records, but illegal to obtain them. First Source Information Specialists. U.S. Representative Fred Upton, Kalamazoo, Michigan, chairman of the Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Telecommunications and the Internet, expressed concern over the easy access to personal mobile phone records on the Internet during Wednesday's E&C committee hearing on phone records for sale. Why aren't phone records safe from pretexting? Illinois became the first state to sue an online records broker when Attorney General Lisa Madigan sued First Source Information Specialists Incorporated. On the 20th of January, a spokeswoman for Madigan's office said, "The Florida-based company operates several websites that sell mobile telephone records," according to a copy of the suit. The Attorneys General of Florida and Missouri quickly followed Madigan's lead, filing suit on 24 and the 30th of January, respectively, against First Source Information Specialists, and, in Missouri's case, one other records broker, First Data Solutions Incorporated. Several wireless providers, including T-Mobile, Verizon, and Singular filed earlier lawsuits against records brokers, with Singular winning an injunction against First Data Solutions and First Source Information Specialists on the 13th of January. U.S. Senator Charles Schumer, D. New York, introduced legislation in February 2006 aimed at curbing the practice. The Consumer Telephone Records Protection Act of 2006 would create felony criminal penalties for stealing and selling the records of mobile phone, landline, and voice-over Internet Protocol (VoIP) subscribers. Hewlett-Packard. Patricia Dunn, former chairwoman of Hewlett-Packard, reported that the HP board hired a private investigation company to delve into who was responsible for leaks within the board. Dunn acknowledged that the company used the practice of pretexting to solicit the telephone records of board members and journalists. Chairman Dunn later apologized for this act, and offered to step down from the board, if it was desired by board members. Unlike federal law, California law specifically forbids such pretexting. The 4 felony charges brought on Dunn were dismissed. In popular culture. In the film Hackers, the protagonist used pretexting when he asked a security guard for the telephone number to a TV station's modem, while posing as an important executive. In Jeffrey Dever's book The Blue Nowhere, social engineering to obtain confidential information is one of the methods used by the killer, Fate, to get close to his victims. In the movie Live Free or Die Hard, Justin Long is seen pretexting that his father is dying from a heart attack, to have an OnStar Assist representative start what will become a stolen car. In the movie Sneakers, one of the characters poses as a low-level security guard's superior, in order to convince him that a security breach is just a false alarm. In the movie The Thomas Crown Affair, one of the characters poses over the telephone as a museum guard's superior, in order to move the guard away from his post. In the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever, Bond is seen gaining entry to the White Laboratory with the then state-of-the-art card access lock system by tailgating. He merely waits for an employee to come to open the door, then posing himself as a rookie at the lab, fakes inserting a non-existent card, while the door is unlocked for him by the employee. In the television show Rockford Files, the character Jim Rockford used pretexting often in his private investigation work. In the popular TV show The Mentalist, protagonist Patrick Jane often uses pretexting to trick criminals into confessing to the crimes they committed. In the TV show Burn Notice, many characters are seen using social engineering. In Michael Weston's site profile it is stated that he is very skilled in social engineering. That he is very skilled in social engineering. That he is very skilled in social engineering.